What's going on, guys? Back here again today with another video, and you can see all these beautiful baits in front of me. Today we're going to be going over the Texas rig, and I know it is one of the most famous rigs out there, but a lot of the anglers I still run into don't really know how to do the Texas rig. So I wanted a video up on my channel, help everybody out. Texas rig is an amazing rig, catches lots of fish, so we're going to jump right on into it. Alright guys, so there's two things you're going to need for your Texas rig. One, you're going to need an offset shank hook, extra wide gap or any offset shank hook works, and you're going to need you a slip sinker, preferably the cone ones. The egg sinkers work as well, but these are more slimmer profile on the top, so it kind of goes through grass and brush a whole lot easier. So now that you got those two things, another optional thing you could do is I like to place a bead in between my sinker, the bead, and then the hook. That kind of protects your knot on the eye of your hook, and it kind of gives a little bit of a chatter. I don't know if the camera picks that up, but it kind of gives a little bit of a chatter, kind of attract attention, you know. So first thing you'll do is you'll slide your sinker up on the line, and then you'll slide your bead up on the line, and then eventually, last but not least, you'll tie on your hook. So now that you have that rigged up, you'll pick your bait of choice. I mean, you know, depending on the water clarity or where you're at is by what you'll choose. I love Texas rigging Senkos. I got a bright yellow one here for visual preference. But Texas rigging is really simple, and once you get it down, it's like nothing. You'll be doing it in your sleep. So what you do is you take your offset hook and you run your bait right, try to get it right in the middle, and you run your bait to about the barb. See that barb there? You run your bait just to about the barb, and then you're going to pierce it through. You're just going to pierce it right through, and you're going to run the worm up all the way to the top to your eye. And this is where your knot is going to be tied, up at the eye. So once you get your knot tied, what I like to do is I like to slide the worm over the eye of the hook. Not too much, but just enough to where that eye disappears, and it also protects your knot as well. Keeps your little tag in from your knot kind of catching on grass. So this is what we have so far. So right here on the side of the hook, instead of trying to guess where to put it in, what I like to do is put the hook right beside the bait and kind of put your thumb, see where my thumb is, kind of put your thumb where that hook should pop out at the top. So you kind of pop out right there. We're gonna grab the worm and run it straight through. So once you do that, that's kind of crooked. Trying to look through the viewfinder and do this at the same time, so that's a lot straighter. So once you run it through the top, that's basically a Texas rig. But what a lot of people don't understand is, see how your hook is still exposed at the top? Grass and branches can still go over the top of that and catch. I mean, it's catching my finger right there. So what I like to do is Texpose it, or embed the hook point inside the worm, whatever you want to call it, whatever fancy word you want to call it. But all you do is you grab the worm, you push it up towards the eye, and you embed that hook inside the worm. Just a little bit, not a whole lot. And what that does is gets rid of your hook point. So now your hook point is inside the bait. So brush or branches can slide right over it, and you're not going to get snagged, which is freaking awesome. But still, when when the bass are going to bite your lure, when they bite down, your hook point pops right out. You don't lose hookups that way. It's a very proficient way of staying weedless. So you could put you a big old weight on there, 1/4 ounce, 1/2 ounce, and you could really punch through some grass or some brush, and with your point being embedded in the worm, you're not going to get snagged up. So that is awesome. I swear, my neighbors, every single time I'm doing a video, can you hear that loud freaking four-wheeler in the background? I've owned four-wheelers and crotch rockets before, but Jesus, every time I'm filming a video, they're just like, hey, let's go outside and crank up our four-wheelers. Why don't we? So it's gonna be a second. Okay guys, now that that's squared away, a little bit of peace and quiet hopefully for a little bit, and I went ahead and rigged up so you can kind of see a visual of what it looks like. There's your sinker, your bead, and your hook, and we're gonna go over rigging it one more time. This is a 6-inch Senko bait with a little bitty paddle tail on the end. I'm not sure what they call it, but that's what it looks like. So you're gonna take your hook and take your worm, crawl bait, whatever you decide in a Texas rig. You stick it into the barb, pass it through. You're gonna work it all the way around to the top. I like to go over the eyelet and your knot, and kind of guess where it's gonna come out with your thumb. You stick it through and kind of bury that tip of that bait in there. And once you get her all rigged up, that's kind of what it looks like. And that is a very weedless bait. It won't get hung up on a lot of things. The weight gets it down to the depth. Now, if you're wanting more of a realistic, natural presentation, what you could do is you could lose the sinker and the bead, and get those out of the way, and just tie on an offset hook with your bait of choice, and it gives it more of a natural descent as it's falling. The tail or the legs on your creature bait just flutter. I mean, naturally. I mean, if you see it in the water, you even want to get underwater and take a bite out of it. So it's super natural. It's kind of hard to throw them with a bait caster because you're taking away the weight. So with the spinning setup, I mean, weightless Texas rig, you can't beat it. But if you're fishing deep water, like 15, 20 feet, you kind of need the big weight to get you down to depth. Because if you waited for a weightless Texas rig like this worm to fall to 15 foot, you'd be there all day. So the weight does have its purpose, and so I hope I helped you all today out with the Texas rig. And like I said, you could use creature baits, you could do it with swim baits, tubes. I even Texas rig tubes. I'm not a big fan of the jig head. I like the whole weedless part about it, so I even Texas rig my tubes. It's Texas rig. If you haven't tried it, I highly recommend it. It's very versatile, any lake, and you can always catch a fish on a worm. When the crankbaits ain't working, the rattle traps ain't working, go ahead and pick up a worm, Texas rig it, and throw it out there, and I guarantee you, well, I hope you catch a fish on the worm. Thanks for tuning in today's episode, guys. I super appreciate it. Leave a like and subscribe. Always helps the channel, and we will catch y'all in the next video.